Good morning, everyone, and welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. My name is Joel Goldberg. Hope you had a great weekend. It is Monday, August 3rd, episode number 96, coming to you from the KCAV studios. Kansas City Audio Visual. They could take care of me, yes, but more importantly, they could take care of any office, any size. They do all the big stuff, whether it be lighting and all the sound and shoot, they'll even do scoreboards, different aspects of the sports world. So hope you'll check out my friends at KCAV. It is good to be with you here on a Monday morning as we start to roll into August. Seems kind of crazy, but I think we're all lost in what time of the year it is. I do know this much: when sports are going, those of us in the sports world, we kind of get used to those seasons the way kids in school and teachers do. So we have our in season and our off season, and was actually watching a lot of NHL hockey. They came back this weekend. The NBA came back. Major League Baseball obviously is back. I hope we'll stay. We'll see what happens with that. And it's not just those top levels of sports too. And so I want to talk a bit today about, I think, an element of sports and hockey in particular that folks say up in Canada know exactly how this works. But I would say that most people in the United States, certainly in a place like Kansas City, which does have a nice hockey background and a growing hockey culture, don't necessarily understand how junior hockey works. And that really becomes different now with a couple of things. One, what's going on with COVID. Two, the fact that we will have a junior hockey team right here in the Kansas City area. So I want to bring in two gentlemen right now, two friends of mine, two people that I've worked with for a number of years now, and two guys that can fill us in on all of what I am talking about. Lamar Hunt Jr., owner of the Kansas City Scouts, Kansas City Mavericks, part owner of the Kansas City Chiefs, and head coach and general manager of the Kansas City Scouts. I hope I have that title right. My old broadcast partner, Simon Watson. I'm terrible with titles. Good. All right. He gave me the go-ahead on that one. Lamar, how's it going?
Well, thank you for having us. And things are going well. And I loved your opening where you said it's August and we're not really sure that it's August or what's going on in August, because the rhythm of life certainly has been disrupted now for 3 or 4 months significantly. And, I do want to say one thing. We always try to think of those that have been suffering through this pandemic. There are people that have lost loved ones and people who've lost their jobs. And we really need to have our thoughts, and I'll say prayers for those folks, because sports is kind of the icing on the cake in life, if you will. It's a joy, but there's also, there's a lot of sadness, and we know people are working and carrying some heavy burdens. But personally, doing well, blessed in life, and we're great to be here today to talk about the Scouts.
Yeah, and well said. I mean, everyone has been affected by this pandemic. I've said that over and over again, and I hope that those that have been affected, or everyone that has been affected, has been not in a way of life and death. But we know that has been the case for so many, and that this isn't just something going on in the United States. And so, Simon, hockey's a global game. You're a kid that grew up in Canada, but has made Kansas City your home and where you've raised your family now for many years. But this has got to be a really unique time for you. I mean, you are putting together a team of kids coming from around the U.S. or North America to come live here in Kansas City and advance their hockey endeavors, I guess would be a good way to put it, and hopefully their hockey careers. So tell me about the challenges right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's some obstacles that we're looking to overcome here in the short term. Our league has done a great job, preparing for certain things, and we've put a pretty big stake in the ground, announcing our return to play is going to be October 9th. So now the roster building, getting kids into town, evaluating them, setting up the billet structure. You mentioned kids are from all over North America. We've got 4 players that are from 2 players from Sweden, 1 from Denmark, and 1 from Finland that are planning to come over here. And we're seeing some challenges with that currently that we're hoping to overcome. But the process is pretty involved when it comes to the environment and the pandemic, and we're making sure we're doing everything we can to keep these players safe. And of course, the billet families and the families back home need to know that their players and their kids are coming to an area where they're going to be safe and in a healthy environment. So we're working through some things. There's a lot still to be figured out, but like I said, our league does a great job, not only when it comes to player development and getting these players moved on, but certainly during this time as well.
Before I talk about the move to Kansas City, and I want to ask Lamar about that, let's say it dawned on me as you were answering that, Simon, that there are a lot of people that are watching this either live stream or they'll be watching it later recorded that don't quite understand, well, what are the Kansas City Scouts? What is junior hockey? Is this the minor leagues? How does it work? And that's, for anyone out of hockey or even people in youth hockey that are new to it, I don't really know of any other sport that has the system that hockey does in terms of teenagers essentially playing on not a professional team, but something that's much more than a travel team and something that is almost like going off to college in many ways. So explain on the, somewhat simple level what junior hockey is.
Well, the best way for me to explain it is it's a prep college league and division where many of our players are postgraduate high school students, where they're right in that threshold, 18, 19, and 20, where they're not quite ready to be a true freshman in college. They've got those 2 or 3 years to enhance their development and ultimately obtain a Division I scholarship at a college or university here in the U.S. So our players are at an elite level. We're considered a Tier 2 junior hockey league, the only sanctioned USA Hockey sanctioned league in the U.S., of course. But these players are elite. They're at the top of their skill set. They are chasing their dreams. They want to ultimately play in the NHL, and we're here as a developmental league to get them to reach their potential. So the easiest way to explain it is it's kind of like a prep college league. Players can range from 16 to 20. They are high-level student athletes. They have to have good grades. They got to make sure they've got everything, all the boxes checked for all 61 Division I schools. We say that a lot. We don't ever want them to have their grades close their doors for them. We want their grades to open up as many doors as possible. So these players are high-level student athletes chasing their dreams for sure.
Yeah, and if you see some of the stars, many of the stars in the NHL played junior hockey. Now the Tier 1 leagues up in Canada there are kids that are being drafted straight to the NHL. But I know, having announced college hockey for a lot of years, you'd look at where a kid came from, and inevitably most of them came from the league that you're coaching, that you have this team in Lamar, where they went and played in the NHL and then moved on and got that college scholarship. And that's why you see a 22, a 23-year-old sophomore or junior playing college hockey. So part of that development. Lamar, how about the move from Topeka to Kansas City, other than the fact that Simon has less gas mileage on the car right now? I know that it was important to get this team back to Kansas City, to a growing hockey community. Take me through the process of why that was so important.
Yeah, the first thing I would say would be to actually thank the people of Topeka for all the support of hockey that they gave for all the years. They've had a sort of a long history of having different teams there, from the Central Hockey League to the NAHL. And so they have a lot of people, a lot of diehard fans, I'll call them, some of whom are going to come help us in different ways this year. I think the decision was made as an opportunity to grow hockey in Kansas City, to grow it in the area. And one of the things that has occurred to me as we've gone along in this process is we do not have collegiate hockey in this immediate area. We have club teams and things like that, for example, at Missouri or Kansas, who play at high levels, but they're kids that are just enjoying it. They're at college for different reasons. And so this kind of gives a full picture where we have the minor professional team, the Kansas City Mavericks, and then we have this junior team, the Kansas City Scouts, and it kind of plugs in that gap that we were kind of missing in this area, where we have a great youth hockey and the Kansas City Youth Hockey Association umbrella, if you will. We have over 1,000 families, 1,000 kids participating in that now, and that's starting, 6 and under, those ages, and all the way up through high school, and a single A team and things like that. But we needed to sort of have this area covered in the aspiring athletes. And Simon can correct me here, but I think our franchise, which was the Topeka Pilots a year ago, we sent how many kids? 15 kids?
15 players to NCAA college hockey,
yeah.
From last year's team.
Right. And so that's quite a tip to the hat of our coaching there with Simon and Justin, and the scouting that's gone on and building that team. And we were dominated by 19 and 20-year-olds. Am I correct in that? Yeah. So, and that's kind of the fine art here of finding the players and developing them. Sadly, we did not get to compete in the playoffs, because we would have definitely been a factor in our division and for the Robertson Cup, which is the cup that we play for in this league. But the idea was to sort of fill in and come to Kansas City. Kansas City is really underserved in the hockey world. There's a bigger market here than we think there is. We've explored opportunities to continue to grow the sport in all those different areas, and this was just a natural move to make at this point.
Well, I'm one of the things that I'm interested in, Simon, and I know that you study so much, so many different people in terms of leadership, and I know that you're always soaking up that knowledge, and you're in that leadership role now, and you spend as much time finding these players and looking for the right fit. I'm not saying the coaching is the easy part, but there's so much that goes into once you get them here and game day and all of that. So how do you go about building a team, knowing that you can be looking at players from all around North America, or as you mentioned, even the world? I mean, it seems like a pretty daunting task.
Yeah, and you're right. You have to put some trust and rely on some people that are out there already that I know from playing with or coaching against. You rely on your network, your scouting team, if you will. The first couple of years, the way that I approached it in Topeka was, hey, listen, I'm not going to just name scouts all over the country and just without getting to know some people a little bit more and building that trust with them. Lamar mentioned our associate head coach, Justin DiMartino, does a phenomenal job. He's got his network of people that we kind of both have collaborated with, and we've joined forces as far as that is concerned. And it's a wide net that you have to cast. I mean, we're talking about worldwide, any player between the ages of 16 and 20 across the world can be scouted and drafted or looked at as a prospective player for the scouts. So it is a fun thing to endure. And for me, it's been a learning experience. It's been awesome. There's a lot of people out there in the hockey world that we trust, that we know, that we rely on. But I mean, for me, the number one thing that we look at is character. To break it down, we watch a player, we like them, we talk to them, we talk to their family, we follow up. Justin's the first layer of that. I've got a few scouts that we have in the Northeast, one that we're going to have in Minnesota, in those hockey hotbeds, if you will. And you got to start with the identification process. Okay, can the player move up and down the ice? Yes. Can he add an element of grit? Yes. Can he, he's got to check these boxes hockey wise, but then afterwards we follow up with them, get to know them personally, check in on their academics, of course, and then follow up with their families and just get to know them as human beings and learn what they want to aspire to be. And of course, that's typically Division I college hockey and then the NHL. And, we're just fortunate enough to be that platform and that developmental process to get them there. So for me, you're exactly right. It is pretty, it's involved. It's fun. It's a great thing to learn and adapt to. But at the same time, these players are really, they're elite athletes. They're high level student athletes. So at the end of the day, we've got a pretty big pool to pull from, but at the same time, there are a lot of good players and a lot of good people out there.
Well, and this is all part of building hockey. Lamar, you talked about building hockey here locally, and I look at all those Mavericks games that I've called for you, and you see the history of those players, and many of them came from college, and most of them that came from Division I college programs, or not necessarily even Division I, before that ended up playing in this league. So, what is the goal right now for you? You've got a lot of influence. You've got the ability to make a lot of things happen, and certainly know the people and care about hockey, of building this thing and the infrastructure too, so that we are turning out more hockey players from this area.
So since I have been involved with the Kansas City Mavericks, originally the Missouri Mavericks, which we renamed it several years ago, Kansas City. We've been focused on trying to get more ice here in Kansas City. Would be the equivalent for soccer and baseball, saying we need more playing fields. And so that's something obviously that people like Sporting KC have done a great job of producing massive amounts of soccer fields. But what we would like to do is get at least 2 more sheets of dedicated ice to continue to grow the youth programs here. Because when you grow that pyramid, you grow the bottom of that pyramid, you have kids filter up. And ultimately, our goal would be to have some of these kids grow up and play for the Scouts. I mean, that's a long-term vision. So that's been part of our focus behind the scenes, is the where and the how and the when of being able to get more sheets of ice. And we continue to work on a project. We don't have any specific things to say today about it, other than we will try to hopefully announce something by the end of August, which is sort of seems like it's something we've been talking about for several years. But these projects are not easy, and the way we look at it, it has to be done right. If you take the average cost of a baseball field or a soccer field, but you think about and compare it to the cost of a sheet of ice, it's just much different for a sheet of ice to get built and maintained and get that business flow through the opportunities there with the kids. So we need to do it right. We need to locate it right, and that's something we've been working on tirelessly for several years, and we feel real strong and confident that we can make something happen. But it has to be the right project at the right time for the right price. Honestly, it can be a runaway train on pricing too.
Yeah, without a doubt, and it's interesting to watch it all growing, and I keep putting up the website there for kcscouts.com, because everyone can certainly learn more about the organization and coming out to games eventually, hopefully, and all of that. But let's, Simon, I want to talk about the billeting process, because there's another one that if you're not in the hockey world, you would say, wait, what? People send their kids across the country or the world to go live with some strange family and go to school, and that is such a normal thing in the hockey world. I think folks up in Canada wouldn't even blink at that thought, because not that they do it recklessly, but it's just that's part of the culture and the history of the sport. So explain how, 2 questions here. 1, explain how the billeting process works, and 2, how are you calming some of the unease or the questions that would be coming from a host family and a family sending their kid right now?
Well, the billeting structure, and I say this a ton, is that it's a lifeline of any junior program. Without billets, without host families, you don't have a chance to operate a junior program. So first of all, we'd like to thank all the interested people in Kansas City that we've reached out to, that have we've communicated with, and that we're educating on this process, because it is something different. I mean, it is similar to hosting a foreign exchange student, but these are players, like I mentioned earlier, that are dedicated and elite athletes, elite student athletes. So they come from all over the country, all over the world. They're placed in an area, of course, located near the facility here in town, and they're practicing every single day. They travel 2 weekends out of a month, typically. We go on the road for games. But the biggest thing to stress about billet families and the experience and the whole overall experience for these players and these families is that it's a lifelong relationship, and these players become a part of their family. And I've seen instances from back in the days of coaching a youth team where we had some billets here in town, and then from the years in Topeka. I mean, it is a relationship that lasts a lifetime, and these families become invested in the players and vice versa. Not only just the player and that host family, but the players' families. When they come to town, they have somebody that they can talk to, they can share stories with, they feel more comfortable with. So for me, it's a reciprocation. It's a big deal. It is our lifeline, and our players are obviously here to focus on hockey, and they have a lot of structure in their day, and we get up and yeah, we're thinking hockey 24/7, but we know they've got to follow through with some academics and some schooling things to take care of to maintain their eligibility. And we're looking for families that want to have that, that have that a person in their house that is aspiring to do that, and they're just assisting them in chasing their dreams. And for me, it's similar to what I do. I'm just a manager of these kids' dreams, if you will. The players are the advocate, or the players are the ones that own them. We're just helping them along their path, and that's how I see billet families being so important to the players' experience in junior hockey. Is that they're right there involved in it. They see a player come back home disappointed after a loss, after letting in 4 goals or something like that, where they need to elevate them. They need to help motivate them, keep them on track, and keep them, going down the right path. So for me, extremely vital billet structure, and we're very close to finalizing our billet structure here in Kansas City. And like I said, we want to thank everyone for their interest, and selfishly, this is going to be the best place to play in not only the North American Hockey League, but in all of junior hockey when all is said and done. So, and we couldn't do that. We couldn't even have a conversation about a new facility, about our power play, about our forecheck, if we didn't have billet families. So it's extremely vital.
Well, I was going to add one thing. They might even get a few chores they have to do when they're living with these families.
Yes, good point.
I have heard that before.
Yeah.
And the young men are very respectful of the situation and thankful of the situation that they're in. Not a situation. It's a great situation for them to be in.
Well, and if you look too, I mean, there are kids. We had a kid last year, Lamar on the Mavericks, Ryan Galt, who's an Omaha kid, and he had played junior hockey here with Russell Stover when they had a team. And I mean, here's an Omaha kid that got his that graduated from high school before moving on from this area, from the Blue Valley School District. So I mean, this is something that's really common.
I think he's a coach. I'm sorry, I was going to say, I think he's a coach for one of the KCYHA teams.
Yep.
Am I correct?
Yeah,
I saw him.
team. Yep.
Squirt team, yeah. So he's
in the area. He's sticking around.
I'll add this because I heard Dayton Moore say it, that one of the great things that the Royals did was to go ahead and pay the minor league players their salaries during this whole time, which is an amazing gesture on the part of the Royals. But Dayton said it best when he said those players, they may never aspire or make it to the major leagues, but they're going to go back into their communities and contribute on a lot of different levels by teaching baseball, coaching baseball, what all those different things are. And I would say that Ryan is that kind of guy, Ryan Galt, that he grew up here, he played hockey here, he's traveled, he's played for the Mavericks, and now he's giving back, and it'll be something that'll be the fabric of his life for many, many years, and he will pass on his love of the game to so many kids.
Well, and that to me is part of the greater picture and the culture too. I mean, you guys know that before I came to Kansas City, I worked in St. Louis, and where St. Louis is at as a hockey community now is totally different than when I first got there in 1998 or even when I left in 07, in part because some major superstar NHL players, instead of going back home to Canada, they might have married a girl from St. Louis. They settled down there. So not only do you have the bloodlines, but you have the coaching. And I think that we're starting to see that here too. I mean, Simon's a guy that grew up in Ontario, married a woman from here, raising a family here. You look at Bryce Anilowski, who is American, but he didn't grow up here in this area. He grew up in Illinois. He coached here last year, and on and on and on. So we start getting people that have played professionally here in Kansas City to build that. So Lamar, what is what do things look like in terms of playing this year for the Kansas City Scouts? And just explain where you guys are starting out here and how people can maybe be involved, because I know that we're all still trying to navigate. This would include that NFL team you're involved with. We're all still trying to navigate fans too.
Yes, exactly. Well, the league has made a decision. The North American Hockey League, the NAHL, as we've been calling it, voted and made a decision to begin our season on October 9th. And obviously, details to be talked about later, but some of those details are now coming into focus. Right now, they're going through and polling the membership on sort of the what if questions. I've seen one of those lists, and so the what ifs. But we have a lot of things we are not necessarily in our control, but that we have to bow to and pay attention to. One will be just the capacity where we're playing, Kansas City Ice Center and Pavilion out in Shawnee. And then obviously we have to have the medical staffing in place and ready to go if we have any things like COVID cases. We obviously, Simon alluded to it or mentioned it directly, giving the families that sort of peace of mind. And so we're going to have to work through our capacity and things like that, and social distancing and masks and all the things like everybody else is. Obviously, the arena at KCIC, whether you know about it or not, only seats about 500 or 600 people. So we're still working out those details. I mean, we have something in our mind, but we also have to, in some cases, bow to perhaps what the county or the state will mandate as well. Also, and Simon reminds me of this every time I see him, is USA Hockey will have is really the governing body of what we play under, and they will have their own approach to this. And then we also will have some teams in our league that we mentioned, I think, before we got on the air here, was just they're vulnerable depending on the state they're in. So we're still sorting through as a league every team that will be playing, and that will be happening very shortly. We get on these Board of Governor calls, and it's hard not seeing people. That's a little frustrating. We need to do Zoom or something, or get together somehow. But there's a lot of different approaches, some opinions, some people very strong-minded, and we understand that. But our commitment, we believe, and I think for the good of our society, our culture, we need to get back to the sports, bringing people together, cheering for the team, just being around good friends and the community, and have good conversations and get back to some of the things that have made our culture so wonderful to live in. Again, not without sliding or pushing aside the fact that there's some serious concerns, some serious things going on, and we need to work with the people that, whether they've been elected or appointed, to try to work through together with this. It's hopefully we can come together and solve this.
Well, there's no question that we all want to get back to just the way things were, or at least whatever the next normal is, and hopefully that all comes up sooner rather than later as we all navigate this. Simon, for you as a coach, there's so many hats here too, because not only are you developing hockey players, but you're developing men, and you're trying to get them to the next level. But you also mentioned the importance of education. So how are you navigating this right now, as many of us are still awaiting word from the schools of what that's going to look like? You've got younger kids, but we're all, as parents right now, trying to figure out, are our kids studying from home? Are they going to school? Is it a hybrid? How does it work? This is obviously a debate, oftentimes a political one. I don't know that it needs to be, but a debate that everyone is going through right now. So how are you navigating that?
Well, fortunately for us, we've got players that are, like I mentioned before, most of them are postgraduate high school players. So they've already finished their schooling. In a case where a player might want to do some college prep, or it might be a younger player, we will have a few O3s, that's hockey lingo for their birth year, right? Every hockey player is classified by their birth year. Yeah. I'm an 80, just so you know. The process, and we always say to the kids, listen, I mean, we don't know how long they're going to be here. They're not on yearly contracts guaranteed that they're going to stay here the whole year. It's not like college where you have them for 4 years guaranteed. There's a lot of uncertainty if they're still in high school. So we suggest And more than ever now, we suggest online classes, if that is, if that's acceptable for their family and for their, their educational purposes. But we are talking to a few local, local high school, people in the high school area here that are going to help us navigate that. If a kid says to me, Coach, I want to be in a brick and mortar, okay, we can figure that out. We can navigate that. But like you said, there's a lot of uncertainty currently. So, our players travel a bunch. We're on the road, like I said, 2 times a month. Brick and mortar, not necessarily the perfect fit, but at the same time, if that is something that they request, we're in an area, we're fortunate to have Blue Valley, Olathe, 2 very high-end school districts at our fingertips. And of course, I mentioned the billet structure. Those players would have to go to a high school that billet, that host family lives in. So there's a lot of, if that's the case, there's some strategic maneuverability within that. Where does this kid live if he wants to be, he wants to be a senior at a high school and go to classes. Okay, we can, that's something that I'm really excited about, having that option, because that then elevates and increases our level of recruiting. So there's nothing that we won't be able to overcome here in Kansas City, which is, like I said, it's an exciting thing for sure.
And you guys will hit the ice when, Simon? I know opening in October, but when will these kids start to arrive in Kansas City?
So we have an evaluation camp at the end of the month, August 28th through the 30th. We call it our main tryout. We'll bring in over 100 players to challenge it for a roster spot and to compete. Very, very exciting to I can't wait for that day, to be honest with you, because we've gone through this whole process of recruiting over the last year, and then we had a draft, and we had a process where we were able to sign players. This is where it all kind of comes to fruition. So for us, that's the first step. We will take 30-ish players from that 100 or so pool of players and cut down to a training camp roster, which we'll bring them back into town. We're deciding on that date right now, but we're looking at between the 15th and 20th of September.
Be here before we know it, and I hope that I'm unavailable and I'm still working baseball. But if that falls apart, which every day it feels like it might, and then every day it feels like it's okay, I could serve as a water boy or whatever you might need. I don't skate well, so there's probably not going to be anything on the ice.
Oh, you can push pucks around for practice. I mean,
I can push pucks around. Stick me in the corner there, and an occasional slip and a fall, and everything will be all right. Simon almost had me skating backwards at one point. It wasn't the prettiest of things, but who knows? Maybe we'll work on that again. He's moved on to much bigger and better things for sure. So, best way, guys, for people to learn more about the Scouts is to get onto that website, kcscouts.com.
Yes, everything is on kcscouts.com. We won't have things like pocket schedules anymore. We're gonna have everything on the website, so it's very user friendly. You'll be able to see the players. You'll be able to follow the news. The North American Hockey League does an exceptional job of conveying what they're about and what's going on. Really fantastic. There's things that we can all learn from it. I'm going to say one thing to compliment Simon. One of the things that we do when we get players on the team, we have above us a Tier 1 league, the United States Hockey League, the USHL. I think there's 16 teams. And one of the things that we do sometimes is we have a relationship with some of those teams. And so very often it can be, occasionally we have a player who is actually good enough to go to that next league, and we will not hold them back. So we're developing players within our own team sometimes to send them on to the Tier 1 league, the USHL, and of course to college. And I think that's a compliment to what we do, is we don't want to hold anybody back. And Simon mentioned briefly what a great place it's going to be for these kids to come to Kansas City and hopefully experience a Royals game and a Chiefs game, among other things.
You got any Chiefs connections for him, Lamar?
Well, just working on the social distancing, I'm sure.
I I've been telling people now I work for Patrick Mahomes now that he's an owner of the Royals.
That's right. That's right. You do. That's right. Yeah, you've got a lot of owners to talk
Yeah,
about.
I just was wondering where he found the money to buy an ownership stake in that.
I really don't know. I hear he won a Super Bowl though.
Yeah, he did. He is.
The Chiefs did, but he was certainly an integral part.
I think that we could all safely say that he has made it. He's legit, and we're pretty darn lucky here in Kansas City to have what I believe is the best and most recognizable player in the NFL right here in our town. And so, hey, I'm sure that those kids, as they come to play for Simon, when they find out, hey, you know what, the guy that owns our team also owns the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. So I'm sure there'll be some questions about that. Actually, I've always found that hockey players go one of two ways with the NFL. They either love it or they have no idea what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Right,
I've
right, Simon?
been to a game.
Yeah, I mean, you get into a hockey locker room, and some of those Canadian or European kids are like, wait, what? And we've got the same thing with a lot of our baseball players too. But I know this is going to be exciting. I know that we're dealing with truly unique and trying and oftentimes tragic times too. But I do believe, and I've said this over and over again, sports will help us get through it in some form or another. It always does. And so I know that you guys will play a role in that. But congratulations on the move over to Kansas City. I've spent many hours and days and nights in that facility, KCIC, and so I know that you guys will use it well. But good luck with everything. I'll again encourage everyone for more information to go check out kcscouts.com. These are elite players, as Simon mentioned. This isn't like, hey, let's get the rec team together or even a high school team. These are kids that are going to be playing at the next level very soon. This is a next level for all of them. So Lamar Hunt Jr., Simon Watson, appreciate both of your friendships and also obviously what you're doing with the Scouts and the hockey community. Stay safe. Good luck with everything. Keep me updated, and I can't wait to get out there and hopefully after baseball season.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us so much.
Thanks, Joel.
Lamar, thanks, Simon. All right, we'll talk to you guys soon. That is Lamar Hunt Jr. and Simon Watson. Really cool what they're doing, and I'm always fascinated when you bring people together from diverse backgrounds like that, just like any office place really, and figure out how to make it work with your culture. So big thanks to the KC Scouts and the best of luck to them in this year during these truly unique times. Thanks to KCAV for helping out with the studio, Kansas City Audio Visual, KCAV.com. Love their support. And thanks, as always, to Enterprise Bank and Trust. Hashtag no stopping you. Could not do this without them. Been doing it since late March and continuing here as we are in early August. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great Monday and hope to catch you tomorrow on Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust.